Congressman Elijah Cummings of Maryland joining us. Also with us tonight, Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky of Illinois and Congressman Keith Ellison of Minnesota. Great to have all of you with us on the program tonight.
Good to be with you, Ed.
You bet. Congressman Cummings, gun violence is something that has touched you personally. That personal connection. Tell our audience about it and what it means to you to get something done on this issue.
A year and a half ago, Ed, my nephew, Christopher Cummings, an honor student, a junior at Old Dominion in Norfolk, somebody tried to rob him at 5 o'clock in the morning into his apartment, and he resisted the robbery, and they killed him. And, you know, Ed, I can't even begin to tell you how painful this is. And I can imagine what the folks, the parents of Sandy Hook felt, because when I went there a few days later and saw brain tissue and blood, my blood, all over the walls, I got to tell you, it leaves a hole in your heart. And Ed, I can tell you, if we do not act now, after these 20 beautiful children, our children, after they died the way they did, and then all of the murders that are taking places, like where I live in the inner city of Baltimore, if we don't act now, I don't know when we're going to act.
Yeah.
And we cannot allow this to become our norm. We can't.
Tonight, the Chicago Police Department announced charges against 2 people in the murder of a 15-year-old honor student, Hadia Pendleton, who performed during President Obama's inauguration. Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky, inner-city gun violence is a big part of this issue. How do we curb it?
You know, it is, Ed, but I have 2 moms, one who lost a child of 13 years old and another 19 years old, who are with me from my suburban community of Evanston, Illinois. And so this is everywhere. Enough is enough. I think that we have a package from the White House, supported by members of Congress, supported by gun owners and even NRA members, at least part of it, that we can move forward. And not to do so is a travesty. And what do we say to Hadia and her mother, that we aren't going to act? Not to mention the parents of the 20 kids at Sandy Hook. We can't do this anymore.
Congressman Ellison, gun safety is expected to be a part of President Obama's speech tomorrow night. How important is it for the president, in your opinion, to stay on top of this, and how much of a strong point does he have to make, and would it have an impact? Your thoughts?
I think the president has to lead on this issue. He has been doing that, and I expect he's going to make a strong statement. I think he's going to change the boundaries of what people think is possible by his consistent advocacy. I want to say that Vice President Biden is on the case. And I also want you to know, Ed, that there are a number of us, including Jim Langevin, who are going to invite victims of gun violence to the State of the Union to be with us. I myself am going to have a young man named Sammy Rahimam. He's 17 years old. His father was murdered in a shooting incident that took place at his father's business, along with 4 other people. Sammy got the news when he was on a trip to visit a college. He heard a news report that there was a shooting in the neighborhood. He sent an email to his dad to say, be careful. But that email was never returned because his father was a victim. He'll be with me tomorrow night as a witness as to what we must do, which is to take action on gun violence prevention.
Well, there's a lot of theatrics playing out here. Tomorrow night's State of the Union address, Republican Congressman Steve Stockman will have Ted Nugent as his guest. Here's what Nugent said today.
We know that the president will have the State of the Union stacked and jammed with props, children, and victims of violent crime. And my friends wanted me to attend to counter that.
And, of course, this is a man who was investigated by the Secret Service after he said if President Obama is reelected, he'll either be dead or in jail by this time next year. What about that, Congresswoman?
Well, and how dare he call these parents? One of the moms is going to be my guest tomorrow night. How dare he call them props? Carolyn Murray, who lost her 19-year-old son is not a prop. She is a grieving mother who has turned her pain into power in fighting against gun violence.
Congressman Cummings, your response to that?
Yeah, and I remember when my nephew was murdered. That very night, the bloggers were all over the place saying, "Oh, Cummings is going to quote politicize unquote this matter and ask for gun control." It's not politicizing anything. It's about saying to our society, we're better than this. And I believe deeply that we have a duty as adults to protect our children and protect our folks. And the reasonable package of bills that our Democrats in the Congress have now submitted, I think is a reasonable package and a package that reasonable thinking people should agree to.
Keith?
You know, I think that what we are talking about is what most Americans want. Most Americans think there should be background checks, including gun owners. Most Americans think that high-capacity clips don't have a place. Most people think that weapons of war don't belong on our streets. We do believe the Center for Disease Control should study gun violence. These are all common sense things. Shame on Ted Nugent. I'm so sad he has said those things, but I want the people who have been victims of gun violence to know that we do care deeply about them, and we do believe that they need to be represented in that forum tomorrow night.
There's a lot of conversation that you're not going to be able to get the assault weapons ban, that universal background checks and closing the gun show loophole. Congresswoman Schakowsky, would you be all right with that?
You know, Ed, we're making progress already with the 23 executive orders of the president. If we get background checks, if we get rid of these clips, that is definitely a victory. We're not going to stop pushing to get rid of these assault weapons. But, you know, we're going to win major victories that are going to represent real progress.
Congressman Cummings?
Yeah, I think we're going to have some progress. I don't know whether we'll get everything. I hope so. But as you know, Ed, I have a gun trafficking bill along with Congresswoman Maloney. We've already gotten 5 co-sponsors, and this is the kind of legislation that police officers are begging for. They want it desperately. And so I feel pretty confident about that.
Congressman Elijah Cummings, Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky, and Congressman Keith Ellison. I really appreciate all of you being here on the
and thank you, Ed, for your advocacy.
Thank you very much. State of the Union. Thank you. Roger A.